to give you the 100-mile-an-hour version of what that document is, years ago, I think I wrote it in 2011. It's in the document. Yeah. And I wrote it very deliberately, almost kind of mockingly, as like an academic white paper. And so I labeled it the commoditization of man. But the whole point was to communicate, like, quit acting like everybody else, right? And so this is when I had begun coaching, and I was trying to kind of communicate my way of thinking and my philosophy to my own team, but also our coaching clients and potential mastermind members and things like that. And so really what the document talks about is how the world wants to commoditize you, but it can't. You are a human being, an individual, and what we sell in our business is not houses. We don't sell products. We sell professional services. You've made your sale for the most part when you've earned the trust and been hired by a seller or a buyer or investor, whatever you want to call it. So the report talks about what is a commodity. Well, examples of a commodity would be gold or tin or copper, something that is generally the same wherever you get it, and its value is set by an open market. And so if I bought an ounce of gold in Tahiti or an ounce of gold in Mexico or an ounce of gold in Kansas, it's basically the same price per ounce. The market
buzzword you might hear is fungible, right? As in, like, you can swap one for another and it makes no difference. You know, if I have one quarter, it's the same as the other quarter. There's no uniqueness between them.
Exactly. And our industry has enabled the consumer to think of us that way. Well, all agents do the same thing, charge the same thing, look and act the same way. Therefore, it doesn't really matter who I use. Sadly, though, and there's other parts of the document that talk somewhat energetically about this, that most consumers think, yeah, they all do the same, charge the same. They do very little. They charge a lot, and they're a necessary evil, or maybe even an unnecessary evil. And so that's this. By the way, I wrote this in 2011. This is before the current lawsuits and all this, and before the media absolute obliteration of the truth, which has come out lately. So this is not a new thought. By the way, in that report, I talk about how you can knock on a door in almost any city in America and say, hey, what do realtors charge? And they're going to give you a number, and 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 houses are going to say the same number. So we have had a problem in our business. I don't know that there's any underhanded orchestrated price fixing, but there's just kind of this, everyone acts the same and does the same, and there's not a lot of critical thinking about differentiation or how could I outperform the market. And if you look at other professionals, other industries with licenses and at least somewhat similar setups, there's massive differentiation. A world-class attorney might charge $1,000 an hour, and a brand new attorney might struggle to get any clients at $50 an hour. And we all know that. We know that a CPA has a different hourly rate. A general practice doctor probably doesn't charge the same as a world-class specialized surgeon. But our industry, brand new agents, old agents, commercial is a little different. Residential, condo, townhome, in town, out of town, big lot, small lot. Everyone just assumes everyone charges the same. And sadly, when I say everyone, that includes agents, because there's so many. So anyway, that report is just about the fact that the consumer thinks of us that way. And sadly, a lot of us think of us that way. And that is the wrong way to think.
Right. And I think we should just keep hammering on this because, for anyone that's taken like a business 101 class or an econ 101 class, it's like you'll read in the first couple pages of that textbook, there is a gravitational pull, a downhill ski slope, like whatever you want to call it, towards commoditization. Like markets want to take things that are dissimilar and competitive, and they want to boil them down to their bases so that they can be quote, efficiently traded. And I really like the analogy that you gave there of the doctors, right? You don't want to be the general practitioner that could be swapped out. You want to be the specialist that has got a very specific specialty that when people go to, they know that you are going to make a difference for them.
Yeah. And look, no disrespect to someone who is and naturally feels called and gifted to be a general practitioner. You just know, okay, I'm accepting a little bit more of a commoditized. My rates are a little bit less flexible. I don't have that price elasticity that others might have. And if I go away, someone will replace me, right? You're competing on relationship and bedside manner, not really results, because most people can prescribe the same penicillin or Z-Pak or, whatever it is. I'm not a doctor, obviously. But the point is, we just have such an incredible ability to provide uniquely different value. But that, I think, is part of the big problem, is that most agents don't know that or believe that or haven't even begun to have the conversation to think about that. And that's the sad state of our industry.
Right, right. So it sounds like, okay, we've honing in here on the real problem of like lack of differentiation, of like people that are allowing the commoditization to happen. So what's the antidote here? Like, and how are you coaching your agents to start having these conversations? And there's probably a couple different places that we need to attack this. Is like, okay, there's buyer agreements, there's like compensation itself, and there's probably different flavors of this that you know way better than me. So, start breaking this down.
As is often the case, every bullet point of our discussion we could spend 2 weeks on.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's why you're on here so frequently.
Well, and I enjoy it. So let's start with what is the problem. I mean, different people might answer this question differently, but for the sake of the conversation and for the document that I obsessively stayed up too late one night and wrote 44 pages of, which turned into what you have if you downloaded it. In that document, I communicate to the reader that the greatest problem the residential real estate industry has is the residential real estate industry. NAR is NAR's biggest enemy. The agent is the greatest enemy of the agent. We can blame the attorneys in the class action suit, and by all means, they deserve some blame, not exactly, out to save the world. We can blame the Department of Justice. We can blame bad agents. But the fact of the matter is, the consumer that is frustrated that agents are overpaid and underdeliver is usually right. That's the problem. The problem is most people in our industry are not running a business, are not committed to delivering world-class value, are not really working full-time to get better and better and better. Now, I'm not talking about everybody. So if you are doing those things, then I'm not talking about you. But the reality is the barrier to entry of our industry is very, very low. And the bar of sustained success is actually very, very high. But the consumer doesn't know that, because as people fail, they are replaced by more people. Because the messaging, and feel free to blame our industry for a lot of this, is flexibility, big income, a lot of freedom, work with your friends and family. I've written books on this. The 5 Lies, talks about some of that stuff. So all that to say, the problem of our industry is our industry. Now, I'd like to go change what President Biden is saying in the media and what the newspapers are saying and the radio shows and television shows and, who the PR representatives of NAR and my state association are. But look, we could solve all of that. The fact is, if someone wants to sell their house and they go talk to 5 agents to do it, 4, if not 5 of those agents are going to terribly represent our industry. So really, our industry is more that than this, which is people committed to getting better. So we just have to acknowledge that and not get angry at people who think that way about our industry, and acknowledge that a lot of times when they think poorly of our industry, they're right to do so. But here's the good news. The fact that a lot of our industry is pretty bad gives us a massive opportunity to differentiate and be set apart from the rest of the industry, our so-called competition. So if you bring value and you can communicate it effectively, the opportunity is massive. And guess what? The way I see it, there has never been a greater opportunity to get a potential consumer to sit and listen to how you are uniquely valuable compared to other options. So I think that's kind of the foundation of where we build up from and go, hey, this could be pretty great.